Hi, this is Mimi, and today I have Gail Taylor, a Canadian songwriter and author, and I'm very excited because we're going to talk about the announcement of the release of her new book, Curveballs: Unlocking Your Potential Through Personal Growth and Inspirational Music. And Gail, say hi to everybody.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, and this is so unique, and I want you to tell our audience because I don't know of, I'm sure they're out there, but I don't know of books that combine music with the book. So tell me how that works. How did you do that?
Yeah, so what I did, starting at the end of my story here, but what I
Okay,
did
wrap it up.
was the book is it's personal growth stories. And so right now I'm on a mission. I'm loving life and I've been studying personal growth for and peak performance for like 40 years. So I'm on a mission to help other folks become their best selves. So when I decided to write this book, what I did was in every chapter, this chapter starts with a personal story, a curveball that life threw at me. And we're talking curveballs like deaths, addiction, child addiction. Like I got the whole story in there. I mean, everybody has my story, a different version of it, but
Yeah,
so so
yeah.
the first thing in the book is I share a curveball that life threw at me. Then I talk about the tools that I was able to use to work my way through them.
Yeah.
And and then at the end of every chapter, there's a QR code so you can just scan it and it'll take you to my YouTube channel to listen to the song that I wrote that was inspired by that story.
Oh,
And,
that's
and
wonderful.
there's the song and the lyric video. So I literally put a soundtrack in my book.
Yeah, you did that. I think that's great. So now we're going to go and start at the beginning. And are you comfortable like sharing some of your hardship, including battling addiction and dropping out of high school and overcoming suicidal thoughts, which I did 2 out of 3. So I can relate to
Yeah,
that.
I know that. You know what? That's it. That's what I always say, Mimi. I tell everybody that your stories, all our stories are the same. They're just different versions. And so
Exactly.
well, I'll tell you how I got here and why you're interviewing me, because this takes you to the whole songwriting side of it and how healing music is, right? So I had worked as a financial advisor for 25 years. And I loved it and I was really, really good at it. And then when I was 58 years old, I started taking piano lessons. And I had no
Mhm.
music background. I had never taken a lesson in my life.
Wow.
And so I'm taking piano lessons and oh my God, I'm loving it. Music, like just listening to it, music started flooding back into my life. I hadn't even realized I had stopped listening to it. But what happened was on the way to work, I was listening to economic books. And so I had no music in
Mhm.
my life, right? So I said
Yes.
to my husband, I'm going to retire a little bit sooner than I had planned, and
Mhm.
I'm going to sell my practice and I'm going to study music full time. And so
He
he said,
said
"Okay,
yes.
go for it."
Oh, really?
And so
Wow.
I
Supportive
started
man.
I know.
Yeah.
I at 61. I retired at 61, started
Mhm.
studying music and I had private teachers, some of the colleges here. I took some courses here. Berkeley. I studied with Berkeley School of Music because I mean, it's in Boston, but you can if you study with them online, you don't have to audition. So, I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's one of the best
That's
music schools
cool.
in North America.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could just pay and I had these amazing teachers. And so, I was taking bass guitar and songwriting and ear training and keyboards. So 2 years into that, I thought, I think I'll reinvent myself as a musician.
Okay.
And when I shared that story with folks, I kept getting the same reaction from everyone. I kept getting, Gail, that's so inspiring. I'm going to go do bitty bitty something they had put on the back burner.
Yeah.
And I heard that so often and from strangers, not just people I knew. I thought, whoa, never mind being a musician. I'm going to start a company, Gail Taylor Music. I'm going to come out of retirement, become a keynote speaker, and help people become their best selves. So I'll use my stories and my music on stage with the big screen and the videos and yeah, and so when I hired an entertainment lawyer to talk to how to set everything up, he
Yes.
said, "Well, if that's the route you're going to go, write a book." So I wrote a book.
Now, okay, now I don't want to lose track of my thoughts here, but how do you become a keynote speaker? Like, how do you get people to want you to speak? Because I would love to go speak, but I don't know how to get asked. How do people get to you or find
Right.
you?
So it's part and parcel of my brand. I mean, I've been speaking on stages for 35 years. I just historically when I spoke, it was in finance and I wasn't getting paid for it. It was
No,
just part of being in that industry, right? And,
exactly.
and so
Yeah.
I spoke at conferences. So when I went down this path and set up the business,
Mm.
I ended up hiring somebody that did a lot of my marketing for me, approaching places. I have an agent now. The Speakers Bureau of Canada represents me, and so they end up doing some of my bookings. And yeah, people find me now, and I find them.
Good. You said Speakers Bureau. That I realize now that we have a Speakers Bureau, and I should contact them and let them know what things I can speak about. Now I'm gonna go back. I want to go back because before all this wonderful stuff happened in my life too, my life was horrible. Like I first 40 years was kind of dark, and I did have suicidal tendencies and I wouldn't say they were attention getting suicide attempts, but they were definitely suicide attempts. Um, a lot of depression. Now, how did you get through that? Because for me, it led me to alcoholism, but how did you get through that?
Yeah, so the addiction came first, and then the suicidal thoughts, I think, were part and parcel of it. My dad died when I was 12 years old, and
Ah,
it was traumatic. It was so
yeah.
traumatic. I kept him alive for 2 years in my mind. I pretended he was a spy for the government and that they had to say that he was dead so that to protect his family. And what happened there was my mom, who's in her mid-30s with
Mhm.
6 children, right? She's now a widow in her mid-30s with 6 children and not a
Wow.
lot of money. And so she moved us from a small town up north to a city. And that city basically chewed me up and spit me out. Like when I
What
was
city
12
was it?
years old, I mean, by the end of my 12th year, I was doing drugs every day. I was doing
What
mind
city? What city was it that you moved to?
Ottawa.
I know
Ottawa.
because you're from
I was
Canada. That's
in
why I want to know
Ontario.
what
Yeah, I'm in Canada and I was in Ontario and I was in a little town in northern Ontario and we
So
moved
Ottawa
to Ottawa.
is not a good fit for you.
No, not for a messed up 12-year-old. And like my mom's going to work every day, right? And she's coming home
Mhm.
exhausted, like putting one foot in front of the other. She has
Yeah.
supper with her kids and then she goes home, then she goes to bed and cries herself to sleep. I mean, she just lost her soulmate. And so I
Yeah.
would sneak out of the house and then
Mm.
hitchhike to a seedier part of the city, party with older kids, and then
Yeah.
hitchhike home at 2 o'clock in the morning on my
Yeah.
12th birthday. Like,
You were
my
putting yourself in
14th
danger.
birthday. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm lucky I'm still alive,
Yeah.
right?
Me too. I
And I
mean, I,
stayed pretty dysfunctional for the next 10 years. Like I
yeah.
managed to stay in school until I was 16 and then I dropped out and then I I was pretty dysfunctional and I hit my first bottom and when I was in my mid 20s and at that point like what you're talking about the suicidal thoughts at that point I had them on several different occasions, whether I
Yeah.
was coming down from something and it was part of the experience of coming down, or, you
Right.
know,
Right.
whatever was causing them, I had already had them. I can tell you what suicidal thoughts are.
Yeah.
And so and so, when I did hit my first bottom in the mid-20s, I literally woke up one day, and I know I would have been quite hungover, and looked around at the mess I made, and not just in the room, but in my soul, and thought, there's got to be more to life than this. I got to be able to get myself out of this rut. And it was
Mhm.
that little bit of hope, that little bit of, surely
Yeah.
you can pull yourself out of this, that little bit of hope.
Mhm.
And that was my first bottom, and that changed my life a lot. Now, I still didn't know I was an addict. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
That one of the symptoms of addiction is denial. Well, it
Yeah.
was that powerful. I had no clue I was an addict.
And
And
yeah, I was a functional alcoholic.
oh,
I
so
didn't
was
know it at the time, but I want to go to this one thing too about it has to do with your book, my book. I didn't write my book until 2021 when I was 73 years old. And it was because, yeah, starting a new career. I was retired, but my therapist told me because of my depression, I was having a lot of depression. And my book was called Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. And the wolves were my parents. They taught me no coping skills. They never wanted me to leave the house. They wanted me to be a worker bee for the rest of my life for them, you know. Anyway, and the men were awful. And then I found out I had my own demons. Okay. And I hit a bottom and I got help. So when I wrote my book, every chapter, when I talked about something insane that I did, I was able to do a side note because now I know why I did it. So I could say, well, in psychology, they say you do this and that when you're feeling that way. So a lot of people told me they liked that because when I was doing it, of course, I didn't know why, and you didn't know why. You didn't know that self harm was a symptom of something else, right? You just
no
were miserable.
no clue.
Oh, that's what I mean. You no clue. And I raised two children on my own with no child support and put myself through college at the same time. And they were 3 and 4 years old because I was a very strong woman. But I would wait till the end of the day and everybody's in bed and I'm studying and I have my bong. You remember bongs?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I used to put wine in the bottom and smoke some pot while I studied. And I was an A student. So how could I be an alcoholic?
Right.
You know, the denial. So what inspired you to write your book, this latest book, Curveballs? What inspired you to do that?
Well, that was the story I was sharing about becoming my whole mission right now, my whole brand is to help other folks become their best selves,
Yes.
right? I've been studying peak performance for 40 years. And so if I can help one person, realize that to empower them just to be able to get to their next level. I mean, that's
Yeah.
to me what it's all about. And there's
Yeah.
so many amazing women like yourself that are on this journey too, that are doing these podcasts that are saying, hey, you've got this, whether you're struggling with addiction or depression or self-confidence or limited beliefs, it doesn't matter what it is, you've got this. And that was the whole inspiration was, you know, when I told you the story about people keep saying to me, wow, that's so inspiring, I'm going to do this, that it was like people were putting me on that same little pedestal with long distance runners or mountain climbers, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, whoa, if my journey can give me that credibility that I can help other people, I'm in, right? I'm in. And the fact that I went from being an addict and a high school dropout to a successful financial advisor with an MBA. Heck, I studied at Wharton and Harvard in your country. I took an analyst
Mhm.
designation at Wharton. I took my microfinancing in developing countries at Harvard's an executive program. When I stopped working, I was managing 130 million and I was earning in the top 5% of both our countries. So if I can go from being on drugs, mind
Mhm.
altering substances every single day, high school dropout,
Yes.
woesy me,
Yeah.
to what I did just by
Yeah.
using these tools and getting control of my internal dialogue, then you can do it too,
Yeah.
and
The
that's
first step though is being aware and waking up. And we have to hit a bottom before that can happen. So, when I hit my bottom, I just said out loud, God, please help me. I can't do this anymore. And that night I was in a rehab, did not know I was in a rehab. I thought I was going to a spa.
okay.
I packed for that too, and they laughed at me when I got there. They said, "You don't need the magazines or the bathing suit, honey. We're going to give you a book to read." And of course, you know what they gave me? The big book. And I had a detox, and I had a detox medically because I had various pills in me besides alcohol. And, they had to put me on lithium, I think. Lithium or Librium, one of the two. But to just, get you stable. And I know now everything that happened to me was so that I would find my mission, like you said, because it took years and I helped a lot of women in AA by sponsoring them. But the real opportunity was after I wrote this book because I saw how many people would come up to me, men and women, and tell me that the book made sense to them and they related to a lot of things, right? Like you. So we're the type of women. Look, we both have blue nail polish on. Did you notice that?
Too funny. That's awesome.
Synchronicity. And yeah, so that was like, I could reach more people with a podcast, and I am. And the mission is to help people get out of their rut, find their reason for life. Because you know what? If you don't have a reason for living, it's not good. You need a reason. You
Yeah,
need
and I talk about that too in the book about purpose and passion, right? And I talk about it in more than one sense, but one of the senses that I talk about is in your job because so many people settle. That's what I call it, settling. They just settle and they have jobs that they don't like and they go to work
yeah.
every day and they come home emotionally drained and stressed and it really takes its toll. And so, I give all these little exercises that you can do to find the right job for your personality so that at the end of the day, you're going home to your family with a bounce in your step because
Yeah.
you're half your waking hours are usually at your career. And for folks that are listening that are retired, it a hobby, a volunteer activity, whatever, but find
Yeah.
that passion and purpose that Mimi's saying is what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, go visit people in the nursing home. There's a lot of people in the nursing home that they're they don't have anybody to visit them. Believe it or not, their children don't go. I know that for a fact because I
Right.
had to put my mother in a nursing home in Pennsylvania, and I got her the best one I could. And I lived in Florida, and she had three other siblings, and I saw her more than they did. And I had
Wow.
to fly up from Florida, and she didn't even like me. That's in my book.
Right.
So, um,
The wolves.
oh, the wounds, the scars. So, there's a personal story of adversity in your book, a specific one, and the song that accompanies it. Do you know what one I'm talking about? Or
No.
is there one that was really bad? Or
Well, there I think that, because there's a lot like the book opens up with my father, the story of my father dying, and a song that I wrote around that. Actually, the song I wrote wasn't inspired by me, it was inspired by my younger siblings who don't remember him. So I wrote the song. It's called Through the Eyes of Others, and it's about losing a loved one, and
Oh,
you
oh,
remember them. So I all the memories and the stories are your were told to you, so it's through the eyes of others.
yes.
And and there's a chapter towards the end of the book called Wings. And Wings is a story. I have a really, really soft spot in my heart for the loved ones of addicts, right? For the moms and dads and the siblings and the spouses. My son got into active addiction, and I share this story because I told you about me moving across from the town to the city and crashing at the age of 12. Well, when he turned 12, I moved out from Eastern Canada to Western Canada. I brought a new man into his life, a new school, a new area, and guess what? He spiraled. He
You did
ended
the same
up
thing. Yeah,
he
same thing that
totally
happened to you.
yeah, and that was my second bottom, right? For me, that was when that was the first time in my life that I stopped using mind-altering substances every day to try to figure out how to help him. And by then, because I had come across the country, it was a lot of alcohol. It was mostly just alcohol and weed at that point.
Yeah,
But
me
I was
too.
reading books and trying to figure out what went wrong, what was going on, and then, reading about addiction, and then I'm like, "Uh-oh, this sounds like me." Oh my God, talk about the light bulb coming on.
Yeah,
I even bought a book that said, "Are you an alcoholic?" And it had all these questions. And Mimi, none of the questions had anything to do with how much you drank. The
yeah.
questions were questions like, do you go to social functions where there isn't any alcohol? No.
Why
Why would I
would
do
I
that?
know?
Or
Exactly.
do you plan your events around do you plan your events around uh timing so that it doesn't interfere with your drinking? And when I thought about that, I thought, yeah, like if I'm flying my mom across the country to come and visit with me for a week or two, I'll make sure her flight gets in by 4 o'clock. Because if it comes in at 8 or 9 at night, then that would interfere with my drinking. And
Yep.
so even though I was a functional alcoholic, I still had to have my, 3 or 4 drinks every night.
Yeah.
So even if I spaced them out so I wasn't drunk, it didn't matter. I had to feed myself the alcohol because
Yeah.
I mean, that's how alcoholism works. And
I know.
so going through that story with my son, that was my wake-up call, and when he was in rehab, I went one time as a family guest, and I asked his counselor, I said, "How come I didn't have to go to rehab? How come I was able to read these books and, work my way through it without
Mm,
what's the difference?" And this counselor said to me, "Because you did what we call hitting a high bottom."
yes.
But okay, so that's interesting because as we've already said, I was a functional alcoholic. Well, functional in the sense that I still had a job and a spouse and a life,
Yes.
but
Yes.
anyone
Yes.
out there that's an alcoholic, like there's no such thing as functional. I
I
mean,
know.
I'd wake up Monday morning and say, I'm not going to have a drink until Friday night. And by four
Oh,
o'clock Monday, I've
I
got a
know.
9-ounce
Yeah.
glass of wine in front of me, right?
Yeah. I
And
used to stop in the bar. I'd get out of work and I'd stop in a bar first to get a drink. And I would call my kids who were pretty young. I'd say maybe 11, 12, and they were latchkey kids. And I'd say, put water on it for spaghetti. I'll be home in a little while.
right. Yeah,
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 that's what I consider functional. And
uh,
then maybe call them back and say, oh, okay, I'm coming, I'm coming. You know,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
I was
Yeah,
functional.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Same story.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
story.
And
And
we
so
did
this
dessert.
story the story about wings and the chapter about wings, it's
Mhm.
it's telling people, it's giving people who have loved ones that are in active addiction permission to be happy, right? You're on a parallel journey with them. You can
Yeah.
still be happy. You can learn the tools. You can learn about boundaries and codependency and enabling. You can learn to compartmentalize. And I talk about all these tools in my book. There's so many things that you can learn. So when you're on this parallel journey with them, you don't have to spend the time that you're not with them stressing out and being all worried and anxious about them, because they chose the lifestyle path that they're on, and it's
Yeah.
going to be their choice when they get off it. You have no control over that. And so
Yeah.
if you can allow yourself to enjoy your life and still be strong when they do want help, heck, you're going to be there. You're going to be the advocate. You're going to be able to, you'll be strong. It doesn't help you to break down, because your addict will take you down if you let them. They will. They have that's
Otherwise, oh, please, I do know because my mother was very codependent and my younger sister was an addict. And she, gave her money and she raised her son, all those things. She was very codependent and did not want to believe she had a problem. And when she got out of one particular, in jail, she was in jail too a few times. And I knew people in the court system because I did a lot of work with the recovering alcoholics that came through. They had a drug court system in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And I convinced the judge, would they let her come and live with me instead of going to another jail? She was going to go from one jail to another. And he said, as long as she's with you, because I know you, and she has to be in there, not go out at night and this and that. Well, she was driven from the place she was to my house. And before she got there, she told the driver, oh, let me out here. I have to do a couple things. And the driver should not have done that, but he did. And she was missing. She was MIA for 3 days. And she showed up at my house and she said, well, it was a holiday weekend. I don't know if it's 4th of July or whatever. And I wanted one last celebration. I took her in. She stole my credit card. She did a lot of things. And I tried. And when I saw I couldn't help her, the one day she had to get a screening from her, what do they call them? Parole officer. And I knew she had drugs in her system. And I said, Ann, I think it's better if you tell him, say, I slipped, than for him to find it. Maybe they'll go easier on you. So she went and they didn't go easier. They put her back in jail. And my mother did not talk to me for a year. Excuse me?
yeah.
I'm not the alcoholic. I didn't go to jail. I didn't use, but I was the bad person because I encouraged my sister to be honest.
Right. Right.
So
No, you weren't the bad person. That was just
no.
her perception. You can't take that personally, because
Oh no.
no, you can't. That's
That's
funny
codependency.
that story that you just shared, because like even with wings, it is all about addiction. But I had somebody say to me, "Oh my God, Gail, I listened to Wings, and you the context that I put it in, you literally, like, it changed the way my day is going, because my mom has Alzheimer's or dementia, and I go visit her every day. I've put her in a place to take care of her, and I go visit her every day, but she hates me and she's so mean to me. And then I get away from her and I'm all bummed out and I stay and I'm worried about her. And she goes, but all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, I have permission to enjoy my life. I have permission to be happy. I can go out for dinner and have a wonderful evening with my husband. I will visit her tomorrow, and that hour that I'm with her will be, that hour, and I'll I want to be there. I want to support her even if she doesn't get it. But that's the point of it, is that so often we get caught up in a little bit piece of our journey, a little piece of
Yes.
our life, that's giving us, it's a curveball, right? It's like it's not the curveballs that life throws at you, it's what you do with them. And so
Yeah.
taking that curveball and sorry, and
It's
putting
okay.
it in a compartment and then taking the rest of your day and stepping up, and like that's a doable thing. Give yourself
I
permission.
do
Oh,
that. I was going to bring that up earlier. Compartmentalize. I do that all the time. I call it a shelf. Like if I'm having grief with one of my daughters, I go, you know what? I'm just going to put her up on the shelf for now. And I put her up on the shelf in my mind. And then that's how I can keep the drama separate from
yes.
me having a good time and a fulfilling time. So I get what you're saying. I really
Yeah.
do.
Oh, and
And
it works. And it
yeah,
works in a lot of cases. It works if we have addicts, it works if we're having challenging things with our family. The lady
yeah,
that wrote the foreword to my book, when she was working with me on it, she got cancer.
yeah,
And she was stressing about it all day, every day. And I said, why don't you try compartmentalizing? And I said, it's a tool in the book. And I said,
yes,
and so she wrote a story about it in the foreword. She said, when Gail said that to me, all of a sudden what I did was I decided from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., I'm going to do nothing but think about my cancer. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to stress about it. I'm going to do some research about it. But after that hour every day, I'm going to go enjoy my grandchildren. I'm going to enjoy my life. And if I start thinking about it at 3 in the afternoon, I'm going to say to myself, well, wait a minute, you can't, this is 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Oh, yeah. And I'll put it in its,
that
and
in the
she said,
box. Yeah,
it works. And
it
I
does
did it
work.
for years when my
Yeah.
son was, living his high risk lifestyle and, on the street. Like that's exactly what I did. And sometimes it's so weird. Like this it can be weird. I remember one day I was at work and somebody, bumped into me in the hallway and said, "How's your day going?" And I said, "Amazing. I'm having an amazing day." And then I walked in my office and I sat down and said, "How could you be having an amazing day when you have a child that's living on the street in a high risk lifestyle where the
Yeah,
phone
because
could ring tomorrow and he could be in jail or dead?" Like I just sat
too
down and said
powerless.
to
That's why.
myself,
You should have
and
no power over that. That's why. And you realize it.
exactly,
And
exactly. That's how to use
and then
control.
people do not realize they have no power. They think they can fix the person. You
Oh,
knew you
yes,
that's how
absolutely.
you
Oh, and I
mhm.
didn't know at first. Like I fell into that whole, at the very beginning, oh, I better drive him to his dealers to get his drugs because he might steal a car. Right? Like I fell into that bullshit of the
Crazy.
whole, yeah, the drama of the codependency and the enabling. In fact, what I found that when I help people understand that when you enable them, you're just allowing them to stay in their addiction longer because you're making it easy for them to continue to function at that level. How are they going to
Yeah.
hit bottom? How are they going to pull themselves out of it if you're going to keep them in cushy land?
And your energy is being drained every day. They're draining you of your life support system because everything has to go into worrying about them and how they're going to get through their day instead of your day. Yeah, it's a tough thing. And
And I had
that,
help, like in addition to
yeah,
reading all those books, like I went to therapy, I went to counselors, I went to psychologists, and I
yeah,
recommend everybody do that. I mean, I think, if you're physically hurt and you go to the doctor if you got a broken leg or diabetes, well, if you're mentally hurting, why not go talk to somebody who has studied what's happening in your brain and your mind and
sort
help
it out. Yeah,
tools, help you sort it
sort
out, help you understand the whole thing. Because,
exactly.
a lot of the tools that I talk about in the book and the things that I recommend, they're things that create dopamine and endorphins. I mean, these are the same chemicals that cocaine gives you with your drugs, right? Instead,
Mhm.
you can get it from music, you can get it from giving, there's
Yeah,
so many ways.
I know.
So,
And
so that's
I went to rehab. I stayed there for 28 days. I wanted to go home every day. And 9 months sober, I had gained 50 pounds because with alcoholism, when you give it up, when you give up alcohol, you crave sugar.
Yes.
So and also I was cross addicted. So now I have a food addiction. You put down one addiction, you pick up another. And you know what I did? Went to a rehab for eating disorders. And I was 9 months sober. And I went to California. It was wonderful. I was there for 3 weeks. And I was counseling, group counseling, individual, whatever, AA meetings. I did lots of counseling. So now comes maybe 10 years sobriety. And my depression came up. And I said to my husband, I'm going to the Karen Foundation. They have a special program. They deal with family of origin issues, and they only take 5 people at a time for 5 days. And they picked me. And it was wonderful. But he said to me, are you going to like keep going away every once in a while for weeks? And I said, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And I meant it. If I felt like I had to go away to, well, what I'm doing now, that's kind of funny. You'll get it. I am a caretaker. He has Parkinson's and it's getting worse. He has very progressive type. And I have no help. Kids are all another state. I'm here. I do my best. But when I reach my limit, I know it. And I'm like, oh my God. So like September, my youngest daughter, she said, I'll come down and stay for a while. I said, come down for 4 days. She came down. I took a cruise by myself, no friends, nobody else, just me, to Key West.
Nice.
That took care. I came back so relieved. Now we're into February. So I'm at my limit, my caretaker limit again.
Yeah. Well, you know,
So I'm going Monday. No,
better.
I'm going Monday at another cruise.
That you gotta do it, right? You gotta
I
do
have
it.
to.
The,
It's my
the more
medicine.
the more intense the role that you're doing in your
Yeah,
life, the more often you have to take holidays. And
thank
so,
you.
whether it's every 8 weeks you need a week off or 3 days off, or every 12 weeks you need whatever it is, right? You need to get your head out of it, completely rejuvenate, and then jump back into it.
Yes,
And I
yes.
mean, I knew that from finance. When I worked in finance, I would take like 6 weeks holidays a year at a minimum. I
Mm,
very seldom went 3 months without taking a week off, because if you
yeah.
don't get your head out of it, you're not going to be able
Well,
to
yeah.
stay strong, right? Oh,
You're right.
I was so empathetic for all the people in the healthcare industry through COVID, because I
Oh,
don't know about your country, but in my country, nobody was even getting time off. Like the
oh,
nurses,
same
doctors,
thing.
they have to work like
Oh,
no days off, no vacations. It's like, wait a minute, you should be giving them more days off and more vacation so that they can stay strong and deal with the intensity of the situation.
well, my husband was having a hard time with it. So I knew that if I got a family member, he would accept it. So that was his daughter. So then I had to reach out to his family because I don't think they realized how bad it was. And now I have his one sister and brother coming, and they're going to take him to their hotel for 3 or 4 days, and I'm going on the cruise. But that's what I have to keep doing. I get people, I'm over here, I'm taking care of your brother, or I'm taking care of your father. I need a little help.
And
I
where are
need
you
a
going
break.
on this cruise?
We have a boat here that every week it goes to the Bahamas. Sometimes it
Okay.
goes to Nassau. Sometimes it goes to the other port, which I can't think of, the Grand Bahamas or something.
Okay.
And I don't get off the ship because I've been there a million times. I love getting waited on.
Yes.
I get a massage. I meditate. I go to dinner. They all know me by the end of the trip. They all know me because I talk to everybody.
Yeah, me
I
too.
usually leave there with phone numbers and everything else. But it's just being away from the ordinary everyday life here and just relaxing and taking care of myself. And I come back so rejuvenated. And good news, the same youngest daughter got engaged. And for Christmas, she surprised us. we met the boyfriend, and they bought a house in Dayton Beach, Florida, which is only 2 hours from here. And they specifically bought a house that we could live in. It has 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and it's all on first floor with no steps. Now that's a loving daughter. That's
Yes,
a
it is.
loving daughter. And the boyfriend said to me, I'll drive down and get you. And if you need a break from him, go on a cruise and I'll keep him. So I don't have to look for any more family members now because they signed up for the job.
Nice. Very, very nice.
It's a blessing. The universe sent me something good. And
Yeah.
you know what, Gail, that's it. If you keep getting through the muck in your life, there is a prize on the other end. And we always don't know what that's going to be. And the only way we're going to find it is to do the work, which you did. You did the work.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you before we run out of time. So, what advice would you give to someone that's looking to reinvent themselves? And it's later in life, because, like I said, I was 72, right? So, what kind of advice do you give someone?
So if the question is coming from a place of uh, insecurity, like I'm not sure, because here's the thing, I reinvented myself because I wanted to, but a
Yeah.
lot of people have to reinvent themselves. It's not
Mm,
because they want to, right? I mean, COVID
okay.
shut down industries,
Yeah.
right? I mean, right now, the trade wars with our countries have potential to shut down industries. So there's going to
Sure.
be a lot more reinvention going on in both our countries. And so,
Yeah.
so what I say to you, whether or not you're reinventing yourself because you're not doing your purpose or passion, and you
Yeah.
want to try to find it, or because a curveball got thrown at you at life,
Yeah.
I say look at that curveball and that situation and say, okay, this is an opportunity. This isn't a setback. This is an opportunity. I get to
Yeah.
go find what my purpose and passion is, and I get to go work the rest of my life. And I don't care how old you are. You could be 30 years old or 50 years old. Ageism is bull, if you ask me. That's the stupidest word I ever heard.
Yeah.
Ageism. Like, some people understand that the older person has so much more experience and education and sees what has happened like it's their elders. And for some reason
Yeah.
we seem to think if you're over a certain age that you've got less value. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And so
Oh, yeah.
don't let your age matter, because you will find the right role for you. I mean,
It's,
people that
it's
are 30
amazing. The
people that
universe
are 30 in
sends
music
Yeah, the universe sends you like signs,
yeah,
and sometimes you don't see them. I remember telling this to someone that didn't know what she wanted. I said, you've probably walked by 3 or 4 signs already.
right.
You're not opening your eyes and watch for signs. And if you see a door that's open, walk through it. You know, I ended up writing 4 books, and I have a podcast and a YouTube show. If you told me 5 years ago that, I'd say, I don't have time for that. What are you, crazy? But it did, because I love it. It's my mission. It takes me out of the role of caretaker and gives me a separate identity, you know. And
Right.
this is great. We have a lot in common. So,
Yeah.
what's your future plans or projects that you're excited about? What's
Well,
coming?
for this year, for 2025, I'm doing a book tour. So I'm going to be going to a number of different cities across from the west to the east. And so I've got a whole bunch of places already that are in the works. And I've got a couple of keynotes. I'm doing an amazing keynote next month called Empower to Recover. And oh my God, it's just a whole bunch it's a good 1 day conference with dynamic people that are going after their success. Because that's what I tell people in recovery. You don't have to live in that everyday recovery stage that prevents you from being successful. You're in
Yeah,
recovery. Yeah, you can't, 1 day at a time. I get it. You're always going to be in recovery, but recovery doesn't have to be because you missed a beat. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. it's today and what's going forward. Yes,
Yeah,
you have to, you're not going to forget about yesterday. You know the past, and there might even be some things you still have to work through, but it's about today and going forward. And that's what
exactly.
I say go for it, folks. Go for it. You're more
Yeah.
resilient than you think.
So, Gail, if you're on your tour, if you're going to be in Palm Beach County anywhere, let me know.
Well, thank you very much. At this point,
I don't know
the
where you're
first
going to
year
be.
design has been to start by going across Canada. So that's my first
Oh,
part of the
of course.
journey. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
can I tell your folks how to get in touch with me in case
Well,
anyone's interested?
yeah, because I'm going to also put that in the show notes, but you tell them and I will
Okay.
make sure they're in the show notes. Go
Um,
ahead.
so so I have a website that's basically gailtaylormusic.com, and Gail
That's
is spelled Gail. And
Yeah.
so from there they can find all my my YouTube, my Spotify, my Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram. And also if they want to try, if they're interested in the book, Amazon online, Barnes and Noble online, wherever you guys buy books, you'll find
Yeah.
it there.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. And I self-published. Did you
Yeah,
self-publish or
I did self-publish. I used a publishing company called Tellwell
Okay.
Publishing, but Tellwell Publishing is a publishing company for indie publishers. So, I paid them a fee and they did a lot of the back work for me, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot to do. I mean, there's editing and the way formatting the book a certain way, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And the distribution, and so
Yes.
that all that part was all taken
Yeah.
care of for me.
Well, this was great. And I'm sure my listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. And I hope to see you again. And good luck on your tour and another book and everything. I
Thank
think,
you so much, Mimi, and thank you for having me. I really
oh,
appreciate
yes, I really enjoyed you, Gail. Nice meeting you. All right, everybody, you heard her. Go for it.
it. Bye now.